Gakushu Asano went home on January 30th, 2022, alone. He didn't walk that day, as he had been doing so the past 3 weeks. He didn't walk home with Ellen, and God, he hates calling her that. His face bunched up, and he turned in his seat. His elbow turned upright, and his palm cupped his cheek as he looked out the window. Passing by familiar houses and shops, he thought about how different everything was yesterday. He missed it, the freshness of it all. It gave him a rush of happiness, an emotion he thought he'd never feel again. Gakushu's eyes rolled over all the street glimpses, everything going by in a flash. His eyes continued like that for a few seconds, then a dark blue backpack and hair color flashed together in sync. His eyes widened, and he almost turned to see if his father, in the driver's seat, saw, but he kept his composure. He wouldn't lie and say he didn't miss Ellen, but he couldn't let himself feel sad, not with his father sitting right next to him. It may surprise a few people, thought Gakushu, that he's more of a principal than a father. He couldn't go one day without reminding Gakushu how important his grades were. Not even on holidays did Gakushu get a break. He hated Christmas break, and summer was just the worst. He bit down on his tongue, almost surprising himself by not drawing blood. Father? Gakushu sucked in a breath. Gakuho didn't take his eyes off the road, but Gakushu didn't make an effort to look away from the window either. Yes? Would you care if... Gakushu shook his head. Never mind, it's insignificant. Oh? Gakuho looked over toward his son, but only for a brief second before his eyes landed back on the road ahead. Soon he pulled into his garage, and Gakushu jumped out. I'm going to study. Gakushu knew he didn't have to say that, because when did he do anything other than study? He didn't. Gakushu? Gakuho called. Gakushu stopped, and then turned around with a neutral face. Yes? I want to talk to you later. Gakushu gulped. He had no idea what that meant, because his father had never said anything like that before. It was a sort of question/direct hit. Usually, Gakuho only gave commands. Gakushu found this unsettling, but said nothing. He nodded and then disappeared inside. As Gakushu walked up the stairs of his house, he thought about Ellen and what she was getting up to right at this moment. Was she talking with her friends? Was she by herself? She's probably writing in her diary, Gakushu thought with a snort. He wanted to talk to her, to text her. He wanted to call her for the first time and hear what her voice sounded like on the other end of a call. Did it sound the same, or was it all staticky, like in the movies? Gakushu had never been on the phone with a girl. Ellen is the first he'd given his number to. She's also the first girl that isn't his mom to be in his contacts. He thought about her cheeky smile and how she made jokes on their walks back. He realized very quickly that she was dangerous. He couldn't get too attached. She was too annoying. Gakushu grumbled the last bit of his thought aloud for the emptiness of his room to hear. His frown lifted into a small smile after he thought of her smile. Her tiny, adorable, sunshine smile. Then his father came into his head, and his frown returned. Gakushu sighed, leaning back into his chair. He closed his eyes to relax a little, but a knock on the door had him scrambling to keep himself upright in his chair. Gakushu glared at his door, nearly burning holes into it. Yes? His voice sounded harsh, but he was annoyed, so he didn't care. A small, younger version of his mother walked in. Light fawn brown hair clipped into pigtails, trotted over to his desk. He watched his little sister as she attempted to be discreet with whatever was in her hand. Tsubaki? Gakushu fought himself to keep his hands at his side instead of dragging one down his face. Shh, the little girl said. You have to be quiet. Why? He lifted an eyebrow. Because. She looked around with wide eyes. The spies are listening. And what spies would that be? Tsubaki's eyes lit up. Her brother Gakushu rarely fit into her little games. But when he did, he was serious about them. She perked and couldn't stop bouncing when she explained, The spies are around the house. They want information. And what do the spies look like? Do you know? Tsubaki nodded and made a C with her hand. Tabby and Basil. Gakushu fought his laughter. He also fought the urge to smile. He just couldn't help it. His sister was too adorable. Gakushu turned his head and immediately muffled his burst of laughter with his hand. Tsubaki glared at her older brother. She placed her hands on her hips and shouted, What's so funny? Jane and Niana couldn't come over today, so I have to improvise. You sure have a knack for things like that. You're still making fun of me. All right. Gakushu calmed himself down, enough to play Tsubaki's game. What do I have to... Gakushu covered his mouth again, because as soon as he calmed down, Basil, their Shibu Inu puppy, had walked in and circled Tsubaki in a playful way. Her expression showed 5 moods in less than 5 seconds. Gakushu kept himself from laughing, this time, and stood. One of the spies has entered the base. Quick, evacuate! Tsubaki was quick to respond. Her loose pigtails swayed from side to side, her ribbons coming undone in the slow process. Her smile was everything Gakushu needed at that moment. For 15 minutes, Gakushu played with Tsubaki, running around and away from Basil and Tabby, like they were actually something to be feared, rather than fluffy, comforting friends. Soon, though, Gakuhu had said it was time for Gakushu to actually go study. Gakushu silently retreated to his room, leaving Tsubaki to fend off the furball spies on her own. She didn't seem to mind, though. She had her imagination to entertain her now. Gakushu's eyes hit the window as he leaned back in the chair at his desk. He thought about how it was to be small, how carefree he was, how free. He admired Tsubaki for her energetic personality. The only thing he had that was mildly similar was his love for soccer. He played when the time came and enjoyed it while it lasted, though he suspected he wouldn't be able to join the team in high school. He wouldn't have enough time. He'd probably have to catch up with studying. Nothing new. He thought with a sigh. What is Wyan doing? He randomly thought, then shook his head of it and repeated her last name 1,000,000 times over before it was all he was thinking about. Her name is Ellen, he said, then said it again to make sure he understood. Why he couldn't get her first name out of his head was stored at the bottom of the ocean, under layers and layers of sand. Why no Ellen? His head was going to burst if he didn't first. He needed fresh air. His heart was beating too fast for God knows why. He shoved open his balcony and stood, gripping the wall of it. His head lowered into a thinking position while his hair covered his eyes. He let them fall shut. Why? He wanted to throw something, wanted to claw at her goddamn adorable grin and teasing smirk and everything in between. He liked her. He had a crush on her. He couldn't believe it. No, because it was absolutely unbelievable. It was. But it was true in Gakushu, like everything else that had to do with Wyan, because she was Wyan to him. It made him smile. Hi guys, I'm so sorry. I've been gone. I'm sorry about my voice too. Why is it like this? I have no idea. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to like this is spring break, so I think I'm gonna finish the series this week. Please be patient with me. I promise the series is almost finished, and yeah, okay, I'm gonna go now. Bye everyone. I hope you enjoyed.